Hey everyone, the name is Erik Thor, and what I've noticed is that a lot of people tend to confuse their personality type with their mood and their behavior. My type changes, people tell you. And what they mean is, and a lot of the time they get confused by this, when I'm answering a question or taking an MBTI test, my answers depend on how I'm feeling or my mood. But then, a good answer here, a good way to deal with this issue is, of course it is. Of course you're gonna be answering differently if you're feeling neurotic or anxious or unstable. Of course you're gonna be answering differently if you feel tense or stressed out or overwhelmed. Of course you're gonna answer differently if you feel bored, tired, and without energy. And of course you're gonna feel different, you answer differently if you're feeling a lack of motivation, a feeling of that you're doing something that you feel is unimportant or bad in some way or form. I find that it's not controversial to understand that there is a difference between your personality type and your mood. Your personality type is what you are when you are in a healthy and good state of mind. Your personality can change, but your personality type, what puts you in a good state of mind, what makes you happy, that doesn't change. While it can change on a specific level, like learning to like cheese or learning to like red cars, overall the feeling of motivation when you're helping someone is always going to be with you. The feeling of passion or stimulation when you're learning about something new or engaging in intuition, that's never going to change if you're an intuitive type. What's going to happen is that you're going to be faced with doubt, issues and neuroticism and things that can kind of throw you off your game, making you fall into one of the different of the 16 archetypes. And the dominant, most core archetype is the hero archetype. The hero archetype represents a person who has a lot of energy and a lot of motivation, but low stress and low neuroticism. A person who feels that they are usually able to stay calm in times of difficulty. A person who feels that they are usually able to deal with and stay on top of issues. A person that feels that they aren't easily upset or offended. A person who can feel secure in themselves. That's a hero. That's what a hero archetype is. And we need all of the 16 archetypes, and we need them for different purposes. We have the autopilot archetype, the zombie, for in times when we're dealing with something that is tedious or mundane or boring to us and completely often unimportant. But also, we need autopilot mode to deal with things that are overall easy and effortless to do. Think of doing something that you've done a million times that you know inside and out. The autopilot can help you in these situations, helping you get through it without having to waste energy or brain power or willpower into the process. Similarly, you have the MUSE archetype, the SIDEKICK archetype, the mentor archetype, the prince or the princess archetype, or the SCOUNDREL archetype. And you even have the rival archetype to serve a vital purpose in your psyche. In order, the second archetype after the hero archetype is the mentor archetype. And the mentor represents someone who lacks basic energy, who lacks stimulation, who feels that they're doing something that is unstimulating. Often the mentor, or also called the teacher or the parent, is someone who does what's for the greater good, for helping another person, for doing something for the society. But often doing something that they find boring or tedious, that they've done a million times before. A mentor or teacher is someone who is trying to help other people succeed in issues, rather than doing the issues on their own. And as such, the mentor is exposed to not having that amount of control that they preferably would have. And without that, often the mentor is exposed to the feeling that they become worried about the people they are tutoring, worried about the student they are helping, worried about the kid that they are helping grow, because they feel that responsibility and they feel that worry for what if they won't do it, what if they fail, what if something happens. And so that can bring up and increase and make you a little more turbulent. Also, the mentor archetype can help you make sure that everything turns out okay, so that you can ensure that you are able to be there for your students in a way that they need. So that you can help them from the way that they need, because often you have to compromise what you need for what the other person needs. That's the biggest issue for this type. Having the need to compensate or compromise your own interests and needs for the people that you are helping. The sidekick archetype, on the other hand, represents someone in reverse, someone who does something that they find fun and stimulating, someone who has a lot of fun doing what they do, but someone who also kind of gives up control for other people. They rely on other people to help them get through their life, get through their education, get through what they're doing. This is the student archetype, the sidekick who helps you out, the novice who's trying to learn, the kid who's trying to live up to their parents' expectations. The sidekick is someone who is dependent on other people's positive feedback and help. Someone who doesn't have that inner motivation or that inner compass to tell them what's right and wrong. Someone who needs other people to tell them what's right and wrong. And the sidekick is someone who requires other people's control, someone who doesn't have that line of responsibility yet to make their own decisions, someone who needs another person to take that basic responsibility until they have learned to do it on their own. We go into the sidekick archetype when we're dealing with someone we feel is more capable or better than we are, but someone who if we find also is fascinating or stimulating or fun to be around. So here's the deal. This is an archetype that is seeking to learn, or an archetype we fall into often when we're trying to learn something new. The fourth archetype is the muse archetype, and the muse represents someone who does something that is completely out of their comfort zone. Someone who goes out of what they usually find stimulating or calming, what they find easy and effortless, and who jumps into a challenge, a big challenge, often too big for them, and someone who has to kind of navigate a completely new environment. We go into the muse mode when we are surrendering ourselves to the ocean, a new foreign land, when we're traveling somewhere. Often in the muse mode we are in a new journey, we're trying to learn something new, we're rushed with things that are fascinating and fun and interesting, and we have a strong sense of what's right and wrong, and we have a strong sense of what's important to do. We go in with the muse archetype with a goal in mind, and the muse archetype helps us retain that energy and retain that motivation in this foreign environment. We need the muse environment, the muse archetype, to cope in unfamiliar environments and things that are new to us. The fifth archetype is the prince or the princess archetype, and that's the archetype of someone who has overall had their second and their fourth letters reversed. Someone who has, if they're in the INFP type, lost their intuition and their perceiving. Someone who is a little tense. Someone who is a little focused and overly controlling. Someone who is a little, in a sense, in touch with their motivation, and who is trying very hard to live up to some kind of obligation. Often other people's expectations, other people's needs, what other people want. But someone who is working their asses off to do this, someone who is really trying really hard to be what everyone else wants them to be, but who is finding it a little difficult or a little overwhelming. The prince or the princess archetype represents someone who is overall feeling calm, steady, and safe and secure in their environment. They have what they need, people are helping them, they have people who support them, but often the support relies on them living up to other people's expectations. And that is what often can put you in this archetype. This archetype which struggles with their second and their fourth letter. Another issue is the scoundrel archetype. Often the scoundrel, the trickster, or the kind of bad guy, the person who dances the lines of right and wrong. The scoundrel is someone who is overall working, kind of going against people's expectations. Someone who other people are looking down on. Someone who often other people see as the kind of bad guy. And often this is the person who is fully immersed in what they love, someone who has a lot of fun doing what they want, someone who is interested, fascinated by what they do. But also, this is someone who feels generally relaxed and who doesn't really care about what other people think and who just does their own thing. This is an archetype of someone who, however, at the price of this, feels a little apathic or unsure of what to do in life. And often this is a type that is a little erratic or restless, who does things without thinking. And sometimes this archetype has to pay the consequences, making bad decisions, saying things they regret, doing things just because they lack the control to think through their actions. What I finally noticed is that the zombie mode, as I mentioned earlier, has overall a secure introverted function if they're an introvert, or an extroverted function if they're an extrovert. Someone who has a stable mood, who has a cold and carefree demeanor, who is relaxed and who doesn't care what anyone else expects from them, who doesn't put too much energy or effort into things, and someone who is overall stable and secure. But someone who also lacks interest and motivation for what they do. What they do feels completely boring to them. They're completely cold. They completely don't care anymore what they do. Finally, the last archetype, the rival, represents someone who both feels neurotic and unstable, both stressed and overly overwhelmed by everything happening around them, and also bored to their death and tired and kind of angry and disappointed with the world, kind of apathic and lacking in motivation. This is like your voice of, oh, I don't care, I'll fail, it won't work, I can't deal with this is too much. This is our crisis mode, and how we get through difficulties in life that are just too heavy for us. We need at least to acknowledge these lesser archetypes and understand how they influence us and who we are, in order to be able to relate to them in a positive way. And I hope that with Neo Jungian Academy you can learn what your type looks like and how you are affected when you are under stress, when you are anxious, when your interest is lower, and when you feel unmotivated in your life. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, share or subscribe. And for now, may your neurons be with you.